Welcome in, New York, to episode 139, back at home base for the boys here. I know we've had a few away episodes on the way home from Gillette in the car, a remote last week for wrapping up everything that is the Leagues Cup. And now, we're back at home base to talk about what was honestly just a frustrating game against Chicago, a game that we definitely should have won at home. So Chicago kind of sneaks out, steals a point there. And these are just the kind of games that I think come back to bite us at the end of the season when we've got Montreal on decision day. Like, this is going to be one that is kind of weighing heavy on our minds.
Yeah, no, it's one of those where, it's 3 points lost, or I guess 2 points lost. It's not the case of a good draw. Honestly, the script was going exactly the way that we said it would. Straight from kickoff, we were on the front foot. We go up 2 goals, obviously, Alonso banger, and then, a decent goal for the second one. And then the team just kind of unravels. These are the games that you just cannot lose 2 goals in the time that it took them to do. The first one, you kind of got to chalk it up to just, it was a screamer. Really good goal. Hard for Matt to be Superman all of the time. And I think a lot of the times the defense kind of relies on the fact that they know Matt Freese can make insane saves. And in the way that we lived and died by the Pens in the Leagues Cup, the defense is living and dying on Matt Freese being out of this world. Yeah. And that's just something you're going to die by that.
And it came through the side of the defense that is the most rusty at the moment. Obviously, O'Toole got subbed in to replace McFarland, and we need to have a whole conversation about the subs in general, I think, in this game. But then Burke was in there as well for his first full game back, and it was just totally against the run of play with them. I think they made they had an interception somewhere in the midfield. I think it came from Alonso, and then they play 2 passes, and all of a sudden the guy tucks it far post past Freese after he dances through O'Toole and Burke. And I'm not really sure how do we stop moments like this. This is vintage NYCFC in one way of playing down to your opponents or up to your opponents. We love to have an opponent come in and be we're now as good as you or as bad as you. And we saw it against Columbus. We were playing like an insane team against them for most of the game, and then in that Leagues Cup game. And then we play the bottom feeders that are Chicago. I think if they're not the bottom, they're second from the bottom, right there with Nashville. But it's just, it's vintage NYCFC to, 1, play to our opponent, whether that's up or down, and 2, to have a defensive lapse in a game that otherwise we have totally under control. That leads to a goal, and then we kind of, I don't know if we beat ourselves up mentally or what it is, but then we have that other mental lapse with Tavon with the handball. Clearly a handball.
Yeah.
I
didn't even argue it.
Yeah, I mean, there was really no argument there. And we have those 2 lapses that cost us 2 points on the table. And now we're in 5th behind the Red Bulls. And we're going to have to see where things go.
Yeah, and, we've harped on it a lot on this show that this team plays to their opponent. Another thing is I think I may just have to stop thinking altogether. Because when I think about NYCFC, the opposite instantly happens. Every single time. We were up 2-0, and I was looking at it wow, it's a little bit weird that, certain parts of the community have been really, really down about this team when we're sitting in 5th. We have a positive win-loss ratio. We've done so well. We went pretty far in the Leagues Cup. This team is in a pretty good spot. And then almost immediately, goal. Within minutes, a goal. And it's just so frustrating. And then you highlighted, you kind of, the draw made me feel pretty bad. And then you were by the way, here's what you should think about going forward, which is the rest of our schedule for the year. And that honestly is a scary sight. And it's the opposite of where we were looking probably 10, 11 games ago, where we're okay, we could probably win 9 or 10, but then we are going to have a super tough end to the season. Mm-hmm. That completely left my mind. I entirely forgot about that. and now we're at the point where we have to deal with that.
Well, 9 or 10 games ago, we were in the middle of it was like an 8-game win streak. And obviously, like, let's be honest, Cushing is not going to win out when we're in the midst of our 8th game win streak. We know that there's going to be the ups and downs, and obviously the down was due, and we have to kind of regress back towards reality because we cannot always win 8 games in a row. But yeah, I sent you the schedule last night, and it was like adding insult to injury. Like I don't know, this is like my new favorite saying. Like there's a non-zero chance that we can lose out the rest of our games.
Yeah, there's a chance basically.
Like, so next Saturday we've got Columbus, and then we've got DC United, who I think has Benteke firmly in the Golden Boot race, just behind Chicho. Then we've got Philly, Miami, Red Bulls at Red Bulls, Cincy, and then it gets a bit easier on our last 2 games, Nashville and Montreal. I think either Nashville or Chicago are bottom of the table in the East, and then Montreal. But again, it's an away game and it's decision day, and we don't know going into that game what the stakes are kind of going to be. And we have a way of certainly playing down to our opponent. So if Montreal is going to play poor, then we'll likely play similarly. But when we add in those extra stakes, sometimes it feels like it gets to be a bit too much for the players on the pitch. And I'm just not really sure where that comes from, especially like when we go down against Chicago. Like, for whatever reason, once that pressure gets intensified, that things are kind of running away from us. Like we can't get back to what we need, and we didn't even really have the players on the field at that point to go and find that third goal that probably would have been the dagger in it. I know we were watching the game together, and we were upset as soon as Chicago scores. Cushing yanks Alonso.
Yep. Instantly.
And that, to us anyways, live, like we were just so dumbfounded as to why that would be something you do. I mean, I feel like Alonso at this point should be able to go 90. I know he's 100%. Been somewhat of a super sub, but the resurgent that he's been on, and regardless, when a guy's on a brace, like I think you allow him to stay in there and fight for his hat trick no matter what. And at that point, Maxey had already been yanked too, who was really kind of pulling the strings in our midfield early on in the game. So we don't really have impactful subs at the moment that we can make. Alonso was that. Like, it always felt like we kind of had those impactful subs because Alonso came in, and now out of necessity, like, we have to start him. He's proven that he needs to be that. But like, Julian isn't going to cut it. I probably would have liked to see Ojeda come in instead of Julian. I think Ojeda seems a bit more in form than Julian has been in what we've seen. But like, Julian and Hack and O'Toole being the only subs that are made in a game that feels like is really slipping away from you is a bit like, you can't really forgive decisions like that.
So that goes actually into the question that I was going to ask, which is, do you think that Cushing sold the game?
I think in one way or another, yes. I mean, it's kind of, it is on the manager in a way, and we had these conversations when we went up 2-0 against Cincy in the Leagues Cup, and then we just completely self-destructed, gave up 4 goals to what were a handful of B-team players, honestly, for Cincinnati. And that mentality, I think, says a lot about like the coach and how they're managing the team, especially after Cincy. Like, he was very adamant that this was going to be fixed, and like, these are, this is a learning experience, and it's good that it happens now so that we can in the future be able to deal with it on the pitch. And it was a lot of the exact same players that went through that in Cincy that had to go through that against Chicago last night. So I don't know how you fix those mentalities.
Yeah, I thought that, not that it was necessarily something that I saw repeating itself a lot. There's not been many games where we go up and end up getting, essentially reverse swept, just, lose the game or go on to tie. It did happen with Cincy, Columbus, almost with Tigres, and now with Chicago. So there is a pattern kind of brewing.
Yeah, I mean, that's our last 4 games straight.
Right, like it's not one that you necessarily want to, let grow and become kind of an identity of the team, because there's a lot of things that we can say, like, we always bring up the fact that we play down to opponents. We always bring up the fact that we find it difficult to score for long stretches in seasons. I don't want to add to that list the fact that we go up and are able to be either pulled into a draw or even losing games. Like, that is something that screams not fit for the club in some some part of our staff, whether that's the players, the coaching staff, whoever it is, whoever's decisions are leading to those things happening. It can't be very long with stuff like that. And that's not to be doom and gloom. Like, I don't want to be like, yeah, we're firing Cushing because of this.
Right.
But, like, it definitely needs to be put under control ASAP.
Right. Well, it's a cause for concern because it is. I didn't even think about it that way. Like, Tigres could have almost gotten out of hand.
Realistically.
Columbus was more or less the same thing. Like, we went up early and, I'm not saying to park the bus after 14 seconds because that is kind of insane, insane rhetoric to be pushing. But to not be able to close out a game where we looked like, honestly, the better team for a large portion of it, definitely in the first half for Columbus and Chicago, like, I don't know. It's like I think you have to find a way to get that third goal or that second goal in the case of Columbus. That way you're kind of taking the pressure off of the defense, especially when you have those rusty guys in the back. Because, like, Thiago was honestly doing his best. Like, he was fully showing why he is an MLS All-Star in a game like this, which was fun to watch. But, like, when the supporting cast around him, whether it's Tavon kind of with the sloppy handball, you feel like it's probably kind of 101 that you're not supposed to make yourself bigger with your arms when somebody's about to play in a cross. So I don't know. Defensive wise, we kind of just have to shore up the mentality there, and then the midfield, we have to kind of find a way to increase the consistency, I think, of some of the players we have in there, especially somebody like a Sands, who in many ways is kind of an Iron Man in our defense, but towards the end of this game, he kind of went missing a bit. Same thing with Keaton as well. Like, we talked about it with not having Perea available and Hack being the sub at the moment, but, like, I think once Hack comes in and Asante and Amaxi are gone, like, we almost lose full control against most midfields with that personnel in there.
The thing is, like, the best part that you just touched on was the consistency. We need players that are going to be consistent. James Sands had been for so long. I don't think he was very dynamic in this game, and if he was, he wasn't for long. Keaton, I think, maybe gets an assist, maybe gets...
Yeah.
I don't know if it went into the stat book that way, but outside of that, I mean, he was kind of missing in a lot of ways. McFarlane, I think, should have had his first assist, but was offside.
Up to Santi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Santi was pretty...
he
was pretty clearly offside.
He was very offside
in the replay.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, like, we're talking about a game of inches. Like, that's still an incredible pass from McFarlane up top there.
Do you think something like, a chance that's called off, even though, yes, clearly offside, but we did technically score that third goal. Is that kind of an out that you're willing to give Cushing?
No. I mean, I don't think I'm willing to really give Cushing, like, any outs at any point, especially when he goes into the pressers and he kind of, like, I don't know, he's gotten away from the corporate speak at times, but, like, I feel like when we go through tough times, he only does that when things are good.
Yeah.
Like, he starts, like, being able to bullshit a little bit, like, talk to the guys and stuff. But, like, when things are going bad, he, like, reverts fully back to it. And honestly, I didn't get a chance to watch the presser that he would have given last night, but, like, I'm sure it's all of the exact same, like, almost word for word statements that we would have gotten after the Cincy game. Like, these are things we have to fix. It's a part of the process to have bad games. That way you can build on them and do better the next time that the players are in their situation. So, like, just trying to say that it's giving the team valuable experience or whatever. But, no, I don't think he deserves any kind of, like, olive branch to save him from the result. Like, honestly, I think the subs that he made weren't what they needed to be. I think McFarlane probably should have played the full night. I'm not sure why he's not. I don't know if maybe he expected players to get more of a rest after the Leagues Cup and he wanted to give them a break, even though we had our standard time. Like, it was 7 days between games. So I'm really not sure why he made some of those decisions. Like,
for me, this season specifically and in the past, we've given him a lot of credit. We've been the vocal minority in a lot of ways, with bigging him up and trying to, have people see the positives in what he's doing. But to put it simply and in the most clear words, he took Santi, Maxi, and Alonso off in a game where they were the most impactful, and we needed realistically another goal to feel fully comfortable. And in my opinion, a little bit too soon. I know we're always asking, him to make the move quicker, but in my opinion, I think he tried to kind of lock it up a little bit too soon, and ultimately costed us 2 points.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not afraid to say too, like the way that players can have an off game or an off few games, like that can happen for a manager too. So I'm not saying that we need to like throw out the coaching staff because they had an off game. Things I think have been trending upwards for probably since the start of our 8-game win streak. Like realistically, things haven't been that bad. And when they're looking at the Leagues Cup too, we talked about it. Like they're just looking for improvement on last year, which say what you will as a fan. But we did take like the MLS defending champs to penalties in the semifinals.
Yeah, and they're most likely going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Leagues
they're so that was another thing. So I think tonight is the Leagues Cup final.
Is it?
And we have Chanot in the starting 11 for LAFC, and we have Malte in the starting 11 for Columbus on both sides of the ball in a cup final.
Yeah.
And
well, that's the thing. I was actually going to tell you, like, I would prefer one not even having to sweat tonight, because the idea of sweating a final tonight, it would be my 13th reason.
Yeah.
You would no longer see me on the show. I'd be gone. But the other part of it is you would have to lose to
LAFC and Chanel.
LAFC and Chanel.
Yeah.
And I just can't do that. I don't have that in my heart right now.
Well,
even watching him play the other night was insane.
Well, he got an assist. He gave Giroud his first assist in the MLS. So like, that says, I mean, we as NYCFC fans know everything that Chanot is about, but like, that should especially be showing the league that Chanot is like a proven veteran that should be on like any championship roster that exists.
Yeah.
And it says enough that he like joined LAFC a few months ago, and he's established himself as the center back in their system with the amount of spending and the type of players that they bring in.
Makes sense that he speaks French and he's able to speak with Lloris and kind of command that line.
Yeah.
But all that to say, we did pretty well in Leagues Cup. So it's not all doom and gloom. Mm-hmm. But even when somebody's doing very, very well for weeks, months, whatever it is, you still have to, kind of put them in check and let them know when things aren't going right so that success can continue. And that's what this is. This isn't like starting a Cushing out campaign.
Yeah.
This is more like, you were doing well. Why aren't you sticking to the things that were allowing you to do well? Mm-hmm. Why are we deviating from things that we're doing good?
Yeah. It's like putting it on notice, like the fact that, like, you in a way are starting to go down a path that will be very negative for the team if we kind of continue. So, like, things need to change. We need to go back to kind of the things in the subs or the lack of subs that potentially we were making at times, and just making sure that the lineup and kind of the people that you have in there are consistent. And it kind of just felt like he was still in a Leagues Cup mindset. Like the games didn't mean quite as much. And he's like, well, I need to get O'Toole some minutes and I need to get Hacks some minutes. That way they're fresh for future games or something. When like we're at a point where every game is a must win at this point. 100%. Like we're fighting for position in the table with 7 or 8 games left in the season. And one thing that I thought would be fun to do is kind of guesstimate now what we think our finishing position is going to be at the end of the year.
Well, that's hard. That goes into what I was going to say, which is like, if you're realistically not top 3 in the MLS at any given time, like your playoffs start the last 10 games of the season, the last 8 games of the season. Like you literally are in, let's call it a group stage for the playoffs at that point. You're no longer covered by your past wins. You literally have to win majority of your games or you will slip each week down that podium. It's the list of standings. Where do I think that we're going to land? With the schedule in mind, with the fact that somebody who is putting out more goal contributions than an MVP candidate possible.
Anyone in the league. I think it was Hudson River Blue that tweeted out on a per 90 basis, Alonso is leading the league in goals.
That guy got taken off.
He did get taken off.
For
in a game that was begging
like,
for a third goal. I honestly think we win 3-0
yeah.
if we get the third goal.
No, I think so too.
And instead it ends 2-2, so.
And the fact that we're still, like, I honestly, we're at a point in the season, and this may turn into a mini rant. We're at the point in the season where I simply do not care about getting somebody going. We have to ride the hot hand that is available. Mm-hmm. I do not care if Moonsef sees the field again this season. That's no disrespect to Moonsef. I literally don't care if he sees the field again.
Although I do have to say that my striker sub, like if you're going to be a guy that is taking Alonso off the field
has to be
in
Moonsef.
The 70th minute, it has to be Moonsef. It cannot be Jovan for any reason. There's been nothing shown.
I don't care if his grandma shows up to training herself and yells at Nick Cushing, he's got to take that on the chin.
We've seen nothing that would make him the sub over Moonsef.
No disrespect to the guy. I hope that he gets better, and I hope that he becomes a contributor to the team. Mm-hmm. Dude's a bum right now. I don't care.
And there were rumors the past week that he may leave.
Deuces.
Potentially on loan was he at Red Star Belgrade before? I don't know if he was, but I think that is what the rumor mill is, that he might go there. And I was just, when I saw that, and first off, the fans of the prospective team were putting together a compilation of like, oh, this could be like the player that we're getting. And there wasn't a single clip from him in an NYCFC jersey. And I think the fact that he's been here for, we're pushing a year now, probably nine months or something. Like that says a lot that there's no highlights from NYCFC.
Not even in NYCFC 2 did he get a highlight.
He looked the worst at NYCFC.
He was worse against the worst opponents.
Yeah.
Because genuinely, I think in his brain, he thinks he's better than it.
Mm-hmm. That's what it
after
felt
showing
like.
Nothing.
Yeah. So what was that? Was that the Open Cup game against the Red Bulls? I think
against Red
against
Bulls.
somebody. But yeah, the kind of vibe that he gave off in that game, he was jogging everywhere. He was not making runs.
He played like he was prime Ronaldo on Juventus, minus the good shit.
Yeah, he played what we thought like Messi and Suarez and Busquets were gonna be when they got here. Like we thought they might treat it as a vacation and like take time off. And these guys are almost like in their 40s. But yeah, he's a 19-year-old and he's here to like potentially have his big break as a player.
Right. This is his audition
for the world.
Yeah. This
for
is
world
him
football.
saying, "Hey world, this is what I have to offer." And he's literally serving nothing.
Yeah. So all that to say,
eating and leaving all the crumbs.
All that to say that if Alonso is ever going to not be on the pitch for us, Moonsef has to be the guy that's in there.
Yeah. Or maybe not even. Maybe Santi at false 9.
Might be better. That might be better.
Because neither have shown anything. You're talking about a duo that have combined for 1 goal.
Mm-hmm. As strikers.
And we thought Maxi could bring it out. We thought, no. So, rant over all that was actually to say, in good conditions with Alonso starting, I think that we can maintain 5th. Mm-hmm. And possibly push a little bit higher. But I see us probably finishing between 5th and 8th, realistically.
That's about where I'm at. And, you saying if Alonso can maintain his form and kind of do the same thing. The only thing that worried me was we did put out, that was our best 11 against one of the worst teams in the East.
So just to give a little bit of room to Cushing, there were some players coming back, some players getting into the mix. Mm-hmm. Realistically, McFarland is not the starting left back.
But I think he might be.
I'm not sold yet. I think that O'Toole and the team with O'Toole is actually better.
I feel like I would have said, yeah, I think what is the saying? Like, distance
makes the heart grow fonder?
Yeah. But it did the opposite for me. Like, the distance from O'Toole, like, made me, like, I was like, oh, this shiny new guy.
That was a bad long long distance relationship.
Yeah, it was horrible. Like, and
Okay.
and it's even worse when McFarland comes in at his age and he looks as good as he's looked. And it's kind of twofold too, because like we used to hate on McFarland pretty extensively, to be honest with you.
I think we were.
I mean, we saw enough NYCFC 2 games that there was nothing, honestly, on the field that told you he'd be ready to look like what he has looked like against real MLS competition.
True. Very true.
So he, not only has he totally reversed the mindset from you're trash to, like, we respect you as a player, but that added with the fact that, like, distance has made the heart grow worse for me and O'Toole. Like, I've completely forgotten
That's crazy.
the dog that O'Toole is, I guess. But
I think so.
I feel, at least at the moment, that McFarland is the guy. So, like, that to me was our best 11. Obviously, Burke is very rusty, and we'll have to see how he goes. Do you remember early in the season that Cushing, like, it was like month 1 or 2, Cushing said that Burke had he had pain every single game.
Just gonna happen.
That was just gonna happen forever.
Yep.
And it, like, always started in the 70th minute, and it was just like, this is just something that he and we have to deal with.
Yeah.
That has been, like, so heavy on my mind with Burke being out and then him coming back in last night. I was like, when we get to that 70th minute, like, what is going to happen here?
Well, we saw what happened.
Yeah, I mean, we gave up 2 goals.
cooked.
Yeah, and
Dude got fried.
exactly. So that,
Yeah, I mean, even bad Burke is better than prime Tana.
probably.
Like,
I would think so.
one-legged Burke is probably better than Tana.
But the issue is that Burke does have a way of, like, flipping that mental switch off on plays where he can be Tana for, like, 10 seconds.
True.
And, like,
But so can Thiago.
that's true. But Thiago's been a guy lately.
Thiago might find me and say something about that.
He's been a guy lately, though. Like, Thiago,
been
I think, has
a
far and
dog.
away, and this could be crazy to say, but he's probably the best player in our 11 at the moment. And potentially, I mean, on the season,
It's
it's
still Santi.
probably Santi. Yeah.
It's still Santi.
So you said 5th to 8th. That's what we were ultimately talking about.
All that to say.
That's what we were ultimately talking about. And yes, all that to say, I think I'm not as optimistic, but I'm feeling like a 6 to 8th, 6 to 9th. I think 9.
Is 9 still? 9 is in now.
Yeah, 9 is like you're playing. I think you play a one and done versus 8th, and you two get to decide who actually gets that 8th seed. So I would hate having to play that game. Like, give me 7th or just give me death, honestly, because otherwise it's gonna be horrible to watch.
I don't know if I can survive another no playoffs.
Yeah, I think 9th.
Nick definitely cannot.
Oh, if we miss the playoffs,
and I don't want to even start talking about that, but like Nick will not survive another missed playoff. I don't think.
I don't think so either, and I don't think he would deserve to either. Which sucks to say.
I don't think that he would say that he deserves to either.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, if you asked him,
It's nice having a job.
It is nice having a job.
So,
but if you ask somebody, it's like one of those things where it's like you kind of choose your punishment. Where, you know, the judge says, well, if you caught somebody stealing your wallet, how many years would you give them?
yeah.
And it's like, would you fire somebody if they missed the playoffs 2 years in a row? He'd probably say, I think so.
I think you might be right. I think he might be honorable enough to feel that way.
I think he would say, like, yeah, in your shoes, I would probably make a move, but here's why you shouldn't in my case. We improved on this. We improved on that.
Yeah.
This player got better.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, you know, hopefully that's not a thought experiment that we have to see play out in real life. Although there's some people calling for it just as in a way to get rid of the guy.
And they're actually already starting.
Like, they're willing to sacrifice us getting into the playoffs this year if it means that we can get rid of Cushing.
Right. And somewhere tucked away, they have a list of names for potential new managers that they already don't like.
Well, and, like, to be honest with you, like, we're not splashing on a manager. We're not splashing on players.
Nope.
So I think a lot of the short lists that, like, we would have, like, we've talked about a million times on here, guys that we would love to come and be the manager. Like, the truth is, it's probably a CFG guy that we've never heard of, or it's Medi. And, like, I know a lot of people have kind of hailed Medi as, like, a prophet coming to save what is the nation of New York City FC. But like the truth is, he's probably not we would not be in a different position at all, I think, if he was in charge versus Cushing.
He's in the building.
And it's Cushing up and down a million times, and like who knows if this is maybe just to shed a little bit of responsibility off of himself. But like NYCFC managers have always said that things are coached by committee. Like if you're on the coaching staff, like you're at least in my opinion, what they've made me believe is that you're probably close to as important as the manager when it comes to everything within the building that the coaching staff is managing. So yeah, Mehdi being in the building says enough about what I think he could probably do if he was the guy that had the title.
Yeah. When
he's likely doing similar things anyways.
Well, it's kind of like, when you're in a position of power and, you're calling for things to be changed. And it's like, you're there, dude. Mm-hmm. You could do that.
Yeah.
You could make that happen. So, yeah, I don't know. That was a segment of guessing where we'll be in the standings.
Well, you're 5th to 8th. I'm 6th to 9th. I think as long as we're not the 9th seed, we are guaranteed a home playoff game.
Right. Which I think the Chicago game, had it been a win, was a step towards securing home field advantage, and that may be off the table soon.
Well, yeah. And we have the whole weird playoff system. I don't remember if it's the same one that we did last year.
Is it top 4?
Well, no. Now it's all kinds of fucked up. So just to be honest with you, the 9th seed will play the 8th seed, and then whoever wins that game, the top 8, like 8th place will play 1st place in a best of 3 series. So both teams get a home game, and then if a 3rd game is needed, they play it. So no matter what, if you're a top 8 seed, you get 1 home game. Obviously that's very money driven because they want fans in stands at their home team's playoff game.
So the 3rd one would be whoever has home field advantage.
Yeah, whoever the higher seed is.
Okay.
So like, if we're top 4, then if needed, we're guaranteed 2 home games.
Okay.
Which would be the 1st and the 3rd of that best of 3. And then I think it just goes into one and done in the quarters, semis, and the finals to see who gets to raise the cup. That's more important than the Supporters' Shield.
Okay, then one and done's after that. So you're realistically, if you finish 8th or 9th, you're looking at the play-in game. Mm-hmm. You're looking at 3 more.
Potentially 3.
But at
least
3
2
more. At least 2. So up to 4.
Up to 4 games before you're in a bracket.
And then you have quarter, semi, final. So you're looking at potentially 7 games to win a cup. Mm-hmm. Talk about a long road.
And is there a game before the quarters? There'd be 8 teams left. Is that quarterfinals? 8 teams? I think so, because 8-4-2.
Yeah.
Quarter, semifinal. Yeah, so yeah, 7 games potentially to win a cup.
That is, those are real bad odds.
Yeah. And I mean, what has to be said too is like that, in a way, it makes the cup a bit more prestigious because
if you take that road, if you're taking the,
that's true. Well, even the
I guess the 1 seed would do that too.
Even the less traveled, yeah. Like the least amount of games you could play is 6.
Right. Okay.
Oh no, that's a lie.
That makes sense. Well, no, because 2 would
5.
2 would play 7, or yeah.
2 plays 7 in 2 games, and then quarter, semifinal.
Gotcha. So that's pretty much everybody. Okay, so it's not lopsided. Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was just the 8th seed that had to do with that. I was
wrong. Well, it's still, I mean, 2 extra games is
right. That's
like anything can happen.
Yeah, 100%.
So ideally, staying out of 8th and 9th. I think realistically, it's the strength of schedule that really worries me. But we're likely 7 to 4th. I think if we beat the Red Bulls at their home, which is also our home, which try to make sense of that if you're new to the MLS. If we beat the Red Bulls at RBA, the away derby, I think we finish 4th. Like that's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So that will kind of be my gauge. We'll have to see what happens in the ensuing episodes of the MLS.
You know what I thought of? Is Messi going to be back for the September game?
I don't know.
Because that like greatly sways whether I go to that game or not.
4 p.m. game.
Yeah, the only reason I was going to go is literally for Messi.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Because Post Malone's that night.
Right.
And so why make it like a crazy day for no reason?
I don't know that he'll be back. I mean, I can't see things in my mind, but I can see his ankle on the
What
sideline.
position are they in?
They're top. They're like
top.
They clinched the
So he
playoffs
realistically,
yesterday.
okay, so he's not going to be back. There's no reason for him to be.
I guess.
What reason is there outside
Well, they
of
didn't.
like
They didn't clinch the 1 seed. They clinched the playoffs.
right? But I'm saying like he probably doesn't play unless he's 100% until
The playoffs.
1 or 2 games before the playoffs to get warmed up again.
It's going to depend. If they start nosediving, they might rush him back. But
I feel like they'll be fine. I don't know. That might have just sold my chance to see
sold
Messi.
everything. Yeah, and that's the game before the Derby. So
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
I think maybe that's our debut for RBA.
Should we put on paper like if X happens in the next 4 games, then we will go to the 5th game that is at RBA. We have 4 games until RBA. There's
If we win 2 out of the
Columbus,
4?
DC, Philly, Miami.
Wait, is it something that we earn or is it something that is a punishment?
Not a punishment.
So then
'Cause
we earn it.
There's no way I'm gonna feel like shit and do something I don't want to do, which is drive like 3.5 hours to fucking
Yeah.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
So it would have to be a
What, win 2 out of 4?
win 2 out of 4.
Or win 3 out of 4? 3 out of 4 I think is lofty.
What if we get 7 points? So that'd be 2 and a draw
Okay.
against Columbus, DC, Philly, and Miami. It almost feels like we're safe from having to go to RBA. Like fully
Yeah, we'll
safe.
lock that in.
Yeah.
7 points.
7 points and we get the RBA debut.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But I feel like that's probably all we have to say.
Yeah.
Say about the Chicago game.
Rants over. Just to kind of summarize it, just super disappointed to drop those points. I think it was shaping up to be something that could have accelerated us into a run, a very high confident run going into
Columbus.
Columbus,
Revenge.
going into a bunch of games that are very, very important, that are going to be crucial in our pursuit of the playoffs after missing last season. If you are still listening at this point, comment all that to say, because I think that summarizes this episode.
Yeah.
And follow us anywhere you can get a podcast. Follow us on Twitter. That is the best place to kind of join the conversation with us and kind of chop it up in a non-formal way.
Yeah.
So we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace.